Hey everyone, and welcome back for another Unreal Engine 4 tutorial. Last time I done one of these, I showed you how to do a minimap with use of a camera, and it was a very quick and simple way of making a minimap for a game. However, it's not the best way of doing it. The reason being is that you're basically rendering the scene twice. So if your game is resource intensive, or if the platform you're developing for just simply doesn't have the power to handle it, you'll find some slowdown happening in your game. The preferred method is to use a texture like this version. So this is using a picture of the level, and is using that along with the player's coordinates to move it around to whatever you want, really. This can be a multi-part series, so this first part I'm going to show you, it will handle what you see on the screen right now, but in later episodes we'll talk about how to add it so we can see the player icon, and we start adding other points of interest onto the map too. So let's get started, shall we? Okay, so here I am in my new project. Okay, so nothing in here, it's all completely empty, and you can see I haven't got a minimap in it. Okay, so the way it works is we first of all have to get a picture of our level. Now we could do it by hand and try and guess it, but it's not very accurate. We want our map to be very, very accurate. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a camera in here and take a picture of the level and take that out and put it into Photoshop and draw over it. So what we're going to do is essentially take a camera, put it above the level, take a picture of it, and export it out. So to do that, we're going to go into our modes panel over on the left here and search in the classes for a capture scene capture component and drag that into your scene. And you want to make sure that its X and Y location are set at 0. So 0 that and 0 that. And I like to put the Z value or Z value at a certain height so I can easily see it, but it doesn't really matter too much. And there we go. And as you can see, it's not pointing downwards yet, so we need to make it point down. So on the rotation in the Y, you want to change that to -90, and it should be facing downwards. Okay. So we used one of these last time. It's basically the same method, so we have to make a render target, which is basically a canvas for this camera to take a picture on of the level. So to do that, we're going to go add new, materials and textures, render target, and I'm going to name it Minimap target. And with the camera selected, scroll down in the details panel until you see texture target. It should say none, and you want to drag that minimap render target to there, and you'll see instantly the thumbnail change. We have to change a few settings first to make it usable. So first thing we need to do is change it from where it says perspective here, which is just above the scene capture area. Change that to orthographic, and that will make it a flatter image rather than using perspective. And then we have to change the ortho width, and ortho width is basically how much of the scene are we going to get in, and you basically type in a number to guess how big your world is, and you want to try and get the whole world in to the thumbnail of your render target. So if I type in 5,000, you can clearly see the whole level is now in my minimap target. Okay, with that now done, we're going to export this. So right click on your minimap target in the content browser, go to asset actions, export, and you want to choose somewhere to export it. That'll do. And you want to open up Photoshop or other image editing software and create a picture for it. Okay, so here I've opened up Photoshop and I've now put in the opened up the render, and originally it's a HDR image type, which means that it's 32-bit. And for us to properly edit this, we're going to change its mode from 32-bit down to 8 or 16, is up to you. I'm going to just choose 8, make it a nice simple image, and I'm going to create a new layer and fill it in white, hide it, make another layer, choose black, get my paintbrush out, and I'm going to click around and draw the boundaries of my level. So you can do this, any software will do. Illustrator is usually a good one to do maps in, because then you can do them with various sizes with various detail. but we'll just do a quick crude outline of our level and its geometry. That'll do. So I'm going to turn on the white background and we're going to export that. So save as JPEG Minimap texture. Save. Okay. And next thing we're going to do is import that into Unreal. So click on Import, Minimap texture, open. And it's now there. Well, now we don't need our target or our camera anymore, so we can delete the target and we can delete the camera. We don't need those now. And what we have here is a texture for our level. It's 256 by 256. If we need bigger than that, you just increase resolution in Photoshop first. So next step is we're going to create a material from our minimap texture, and the material is then going to be put onto a widget, which then can make it show on the viewport. So let's create a material. So right click on your minimap texture and click on create material, and minimap underscore material. Open it up, and this is where it gets a bit more heavy. So I hope you like maths, and I'll try and do my best to explain the equations and how it all works, but forgive me if I can't explain it too well, but I'll do my best. So the first thing we need to do is change the output node from the surface domain. So on the left here it says material domain, change it from surface to user interface, because that's going to be on our user interface, and I'm going to drag this to final color so you can see it. So the way this works is you've got a texture sample, and this takes in some UVs. Now UVs are coordinates used in texture spaces, and they go from 0, which is on the left, to 1, which is on the right, and 0 is on the top as well, and 1's on the bottom as well. That's by default. So default UV is 0 to 1, which is the whole thing basically. So we're going to need to do some things here to make it zoom in and move around to follow the player. So to do this, we're going to use a parameter collection. So we're going to minimize this, go to add new, materials and textures, material parameter collection, and I'm going to call it minimap underscore data. And this is a collection of data that will be stored and can be used across the whole entire level of your game. And it can store scalar parameters and vector parameters. So scalar, we're going to need first one to be x, second one to be y, set to default to 0. Next one is going to be zoom, and default value is going to be 0.5. And the next one is going to be dimensions, and default we'll leave it 0 as well. Okay, close that. So those are the 4 parameters we need, and to access them all you do is right click on here in the space and type in parameter, and you'll see collection parameter. Click on this, and we don't need a preview window, so we can hide that with a little arrow, and you will make sure that minimap data is the collection you've chosen, and the drop down for parameter name should now display those 4 that we entered. So we need first of all zoom, okay, which has a default of 0.5 if you remember, and we want to get also the texture coordinates. So type in texture coordinate and you'll get this text chord input. So red ones are inputs, and this is the input of the UVs, and by default it's just 0 to 1, and you can see the tiling, 1 is there, 0 is the coordinate index, so basic texture. And what we need to do is multiply these together. Okay, so zoom only will change the values here by 0.5. So we go to multiply and hook them both together. So this now essentially halves these values. Okay, So it's now going to show 0 to 0.5 rather than 0 to 1, because half of 1 is 0.5. Okay. After that, that'll get our zoom. After that, we want to get the offset. So to get it to follow the player, we need to change its offset. And to see this working here, I'll just drag it over here and you can see it working. There you go, see? Break that off now, we don't want to do that just yet. We need to make an offset. So as you saw, this defaults to 0 to 0.5 and 0 to 0.5. Obviously our player isn't there, it could be anywhere in the level. We need to change that starting position, 0, to match whatever the player is doing, okay? And we're going to keep the player in the center as best as possible. So what I'm going to do next is create the offset. So try follow along. So from the zoom, which is B 0.5 by default, you drag out of here and do divide. And you want to divide by 2, which it should be by default. So this 0.5 is now divided by 2, giving you 0.25. And then we want to do subtract, but we want to plug that into B, not A, and the A value we want to be 0.5. So this refers to the central point of the map. We want to keep it central, and this basically means we need to get the half of the offset away, so it keeps the player in the center of the texture when it's rolling around. It's very hard to explain without seeing it, but you'll see it soon. And once we've got this offset, we can now add this to our coordinates. So let's first of all get our coordinates. So right click here and get the parameter collection, and we'll choose Y. I'll hide that again. I'm just going to copy and paste this out and get X. And whilst we're here, we will also need dimensions, like so, and put dimensions in between them too. So the X and the Y, the way this works is we're going to plug in the player's coordinates into these parameters, okay, in the widget later on. Now the trick now is to get the player's coordinates converted over to texture coordinates. Now remember, texture coordinates go between 0 and 1, whereas in the world it could be, well, anything between minus 3,000 to positive 3,000. We don't know. So we need to get the ratio between the world space and the texture space. And it sounds very confusing, but it really isn't. All you got to do is divide the smaller number by the larger number. So if I take the Y and go divide and dimensions into the bottom one, because dimensions will be quite a large number. This is the size of the map. Okay, so remember that orthographic camera we put in? That's the size of its width that we put in earlier. So this would be essentially 5,000, and Y will be, for example, let's say if it's 2,500, 2,500 divided by 5,000 will get you 0.5. Okay, so it keeps it in between 0 and 1. We'll do the same again here. So divide X by dimensions, and then we want to add these onto the subtract here. So we're going to go add and drag that into there. Let's move these closer, and I'm going to get another add and do exactly the same but for the other coordinate, and this will get your X and Y. So this gets the X and Y in texture space, and this adds the offset onto it. So now we've got the offset correct coordinates, we want to append these together to make a vector. So drag these out and type in append vector, and this creates a vector out of these two values, which makes us a new UV, basically a new UV coordinate. And what we do is we add this value onto this value. So from the multiply, drag out to an add and connect append to point B. And the last thing we'll do is we're going to clamp this before we put into UVs. Now clamping is a safe measure that we're going to put in to make sure that the values of UV do not exceed 0 or 1. Otherwise your map will start tiling, so we don't want that to happen. So if the player walks off the map somehow, the map won't tile, it'll just look like you've gone off the texture. So we'll drag this off and hook it up to UV now. Okay, now it's gone white. That's because our dimensions is inputting 0, if you remember rightly. So you're dividing everything by 0, therefore this isn't going to work. Okay, it will only work when we've put in a value into dimensions. So we're going to come out of there, apply it, save it, and come out. And we're now going to create the widget so we can enter that information. So go add new, user interface, widget blueprint. And we're going to call this Minimap widget. And open it up. And I'm going to delete the canvas panel because I don't want that. I want this to be a sub-component of the HUD widget, which we'll make later. So we don't need a canvas panel for this. And all we need is the image itself. So type in image and drag it onto your hierarchy. There it is. And the image you want is your minimap. So you go over to the brush, if it isn't already expanded, expand open, an image, change from none to minimap, material. Oh, pardon me, forgot one thing. Let's go back here, don't use it with material. We want to make an instance of this material. So right click on there, material, and create material instance. And minimap underscore instance. There we go. So that's the one we want to use, not the material. So go back to the widget and change this to minimap instance. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm just going to name this map. Make sure its variable is ticked on. And go to graph. And the graph, I'm just going to clear these so it doesn't look messy. We're going to add a couple of variables. So we're going to add dimensions. And add zoom. And add image. So dimensions is going to be a float. Zoom is going to be a float. And the image is going to be a material. No, texture, sorry. Texture. Texture. Okay. And you want all of these to be instance editable and expose on spawn. And click compile. This allows us, when we create the widget, to set up the minimap to certain settings that we like. Okay, so dimensions 0, zoom is 0 at the moment. Let's change that to 0.5. And click compile. And so we're going to make these show up when we create the widget and be able to edit it in the code whenever we like. So if you've got multiple levels in the world, this allows you to swap out what map you show in your minimap. So we're going to do a construct event. Construct. So as soon as the widget is created, this triggers, and we're going to create. No, what we're doing? Event widget. What am I missing? Come off of there, and I'm missing something. What am I missing? Mine's gone blank. Set scalar parameter value. There we go. And it's a collection. You want to choose minimap data. The name you want is dimensions, and you want to drag dimensions into the parameter value. And zoom. Do it again for zoom. Set scalar parameter. Choose minimap data. Choose zoom, and you want to drag zoom onto that too. Okay. So when it's created, we'll set the dimensions to that collection of data and the zoom to that collection of data. Next we're going to do is tick. So event tick, and we want this to grab the player's coordinates and plug it into our data collection. So come over here, set scalar parameter, and choose minimap data x, and copy and paste that for y, and we're going to copy and paste it again for zoom, so it allows us, if we want to change zoom mid-game, we can do. We'll just plug that into there like so. So we now need to enter the parameter values for x and y, and we get that from the player's coordinates. So type in get player character. Now get the actor, the player's currently playing as. Come off of here, get location, and right click on the return value and choose split struct pin, and it gives you those 3 values instead of the vector. So you plug x into x and y into y, and click compile. Okay dokie. Right, so once we've done that, we're going to close this, and we're going to create a new widget for our HUD. So go widget blueprint, HUD underscore widget, and in there we should see on the palette user created minimap widget, and you can drag that into your canvas panel and place it wherever you like. So here we change its size to 300 by 300 like so. And you can see here where we created the instance of the minimap widget, I can type in dimensions, zoom, and an image which we can assign in a second. So dimensions, we want it to be 5000. It has to match what you set the camera as. And zoom, we want it at 0.5, so we'll leave it at 0.5. And the image we haven't hooked up yet, so we'll leave it as is. We'll come back to that in a second. Click compile and close that. Now we need to make the HUD appear. So I like to do this on the game mode. So if we go to the blueprints, find the game mode, open the full blueprint editor, and in here I'm going to do begin play, and then I'm going to just do create widget, choose the HUD widget, go in player, get player controller, and we're going to promote this to a variable to save it. Save its reference as HUD widget, I guess. Like so. And then we're going to add this to viewport. Add to viewport. Okie dokie. Click compile. And let's see if this has worked. Probably missed a bits out. Let's have a look. So there's the map. And if I walk up, it moves. And if I walk left, right, it moves. Now you notice something wrong is that when I walk up, you can see the map is going the wrong way. Okay, now this is just the way the coordinates work, so we can quickly fix that by multiplying it by -1. Okay, so we're going to go back to our minimap material, and I believe the one we need to do is the x we need to do. So we need to multiply by -1 and chuck that into the add. Okay, let's just spread this out a bit. So multiply it by x, so basically flips it. And if I play it now, if I go up, go down, right, left, and it looks as though the minimap's working. So you can see if I go into this corner, the corner is appearing in the middle of the map. It's a good way to test it. Okay. And that's the basic minimap. We're going to do some settings now to make it a little bit more fancy before we close out this video. So we're going to go back to our widget and our graph, and this image that we set up, this is going to allow us, so on our HUD, if we go back to our HUD widget, when we create an instance of the minimap, we can set what image it is, and we can change that mid-game if we like. So if the player, say, goes into a building, we can swap out the image of the world to the building texture instead. So the way we do that and make it apply to the material is we go back to the material, and the texture sample we got here, we want to delete that and we want to put in a type in parameter, and you'll see texture sample parameter 2D. Click on this and plug that into final color. So this, we need to give it a name, so here we're going to change it map image, and leave like so, and that means it's now available to the instance. That's why we need to make the instance earlier. So if I go on to the instance here, you can see I can change its map image here. So now when we create a HUD, we can change what image it uses from here. So I can change it from there, click compile, and it should, well no, we haven't hooked up yet, so go back to the Minimap widget. So we've got the HUD where we assigned the minimap texture. Go back to the Minimap widget, this thing, and in the construct you want to link this variable to the map parameter. So we have to get the material first. So let's go, let's drag on map here, and on here we go get dynamic material. Okay, and that fetches the material of that image. Okay, and from that we're going to promote this to a variable. Why the hell not? And store this as map image, map instance. There you go. And from that we are going to change its parameter. So from here I can actually select a parameter for it. So I'll go set parameter, and you'll see set texture parameter value. So the name of it should match the name of the image we typed in earlier, and the value will be this variable that we dragged in earlier, like so. So now with the HUD with this selected here, this should now work in the game. Hey, see? So now you can change that minimap in game whenever you like by accessing that variable in the widget. So next thing we'll do is we're going to make it look a bit fancier. We'll make it round. So we go into material and we're going to make it round first. So let's have a look at the opacity mask. So to make the opacity mask work, we need to change this from opaque in the details panel to masked, and it allows us to access the opacity mask. And we're going to use a sphere mask for this. So type in sphere mask and hook that into opacity mask. So we need two values here. The first value is a texture coordinate, and the next one is a 2 vector. So vector constant 2 vector, and the values we want is 0.5 by 0.5, and this basically refers to the center point of the circle. Okay, so where is the circle going to start? Where's its center going to be? You want it to be 0.5, 0.5 of the texture coordinate. So basically 0 to 1, right in the middle, we want our big circle to be. Okay. Click on your sphere mask, and you want to change its radius from 256 to what would be a good one, 0.5, and you see it nice and round now. Amazing, isn't it? If you expand this out, you can actually see the alpha mask here. So it creates an alpha mask, and anything white remains seen, anything black gets hidden. Okay, so apply that, go into our world, and there's our circle texture. Magic. And the last thing we do is we'll make a border for it. A nice, neat little border. And for that, we are going up here. First of all, let's copy this because we're going to do exactly the same thing again. Just up here, paste that. And this is going to go into subtract. And we don't want to subtract it from A, we want to go that into B and A to be 1. So if I show you this, so this is, remember, everything white is seen, everything black is hidden. So the white here is seen. Subtract from 1 basically reverses it, so it'll keep everything in the white. Now this border at the moment matches exactly this mask here, so you won't actually see anything because remember it would be black, so it'd be hidden. So what we want is it to be a little bit smaller. Okay, the circle will be a little bit smaller. So on here, on the sphere mask, I'm going to change from 0.5 to say 0.45. And you see the circle is a little bit smaller now, meaning that whatever colour we put in this white area, we'll see now on our picture. It will overlay it. So to do that, we're going to lerp it with a linear interpolation. So type in linear interpolate. And now what this does basically says choose between the colour between A or B based on the an alpha mask. So we're going to go from A to B like so. And then we're going to go into B, it's going to be a colour. And this will be constant 3 vector. This is the colour of the border you want. So for example, make it nice and red. You'll see it nice and clear. And the alpha will be this map image. Okay, and we'll drag that into sorry, not into that. Sorry, this map image goes into A. Sorry, color goes into B, and this alpha goes into there. So if I expand that out, you can see the red outline, and that's what you want. Because now if I plug that into the final color, the opacity mask and this will work together, and now you'll only see the nice red border. Click apply, go back into your game, push play, and there is our nice little minimap. And that'll do for this episode. Next episode we'll look at how to add the player icon in the middle of the map so you can see it spinning around and show its orientation on the minimap. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you followed along okay and didn't get too lost. If you did get lost and have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment behind, and like and share this video, and subscribe for future Unreal 4 tutorials. Thank you and goodbye.